Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Women in Technology virtual groups webinar for this month. Typically, we host one webinar every month. Today's a special one. We're celebrating Women History Month and International Women's Day, which was last week. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, where we have recordings of almost all of our webinars. On our site, we have we have links to those webinars, as well as information about women speaking at SQL Saturdays and at other virtual groups and our group. Be sure to check that out. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out with news about the chapter and about women speaking and other accomplishments that our members are doing. And you can follow us on Twitter at PassWit, or follow #PassWit. Thanks to two wonderful sponsors, we are able to have this chapter. We have money that we can give a prize every webinar to one lucky winner. And we also but really the sponsors help us to actually even have this program. So thanks to SentryOne and to Redgate for sponsoring our chapter. We really, really appreciate it. As I said, we'd like to promote SQL Saturdays. There are so many SQL Saturdays coming up with many, many women speaking at them. I'm not going to go through all of these. Obviously, I will just point out that there's one this weekend. Victoria, I'll be there. Also, Kellen, who's on the call, will be there. Then next week, there's Tampa, and quite a few women speaking at that. There's Chicago, Spokane, Brasilia, later in the month, Richmond, Cincinnati, and Boston at the very end. So I know you cannot read all of those. I just zipped through them so quickly. So please take a look at our website, where you can get more information and click through and see more information about those sessions. And be sure to attend some of them if you're going to those SQL Saturdays. We have today's session. It's the only one we've got on our schedule right now for our group. However, we really like to promote sessions for other groups as well. So on April 11th, Amy Mason will be presenting a session on Azure Intelligence Services. And then on May 21st, Kendra Little will be presenting a session on DevOps: what, who, why, and how. And today we are celebrating Women in Technology by this Women Talk Tech. So what we decided to do is to reach out to several of the leaders in the data platform community. And really, this is just a small fraction of the amazing women that we have in our community. So I'm going to turn it over to Ree, and I'm going to turn off my webcam so she can turn hers on. Did it work? It didn't seem to work. I still see myself. There we go. Okay, Ree, if you want to go ahead and introduce everyone, or let them introduce themselves.
Tell me if mine worked. There I am. So hey, good afternoon, good morning, everybody who's on the call. I'm going to let each person give me a couple of sentences about themselves as we go through. And so we have Catherine Wilhelmsen. Do you want to give a quick update about yourself?
I can. Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm from Norway. I work as a senior business intelligence consultant in a Norwegian company called Inessa, where I'm also the tech lead for Microsoft Data and AI. I speak, I blog, and I volunteer everywhere I can.
Okay, next we have Laurie Edwards.
Hi, I'm Laurie, and I am the training manager for SentryOne. I'm also a director at large on the PASS board. Working in tech for 18 some years.
Nice. Okay, Mala.
Hi, I'm Mala. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I work as a database engineer with Channel Advisors here, and I've been a volunteer with PASS for about 21 years now.
Okay, Kellen, you're up next.
Hello, my name is Kellen Gorman. I am a data platform architect with Microsoft, and as you can see, I'm in my RV. I happen to be in Town this week in Raleigh, and I have worked in Oracle, Microsoft, DB2, you name the technology, I've been in it, and I'm supposed to be learning analytics and AI right now. I'm on the education team at Microsoft.
We won't tell them that you skipped that for this webinar, don't worry. Okay, and last but certainly not least is Monica Rathbun.
Hey, I'm Monica Rothman. I currently work for Denny Cherry and Associates. I've been doing tech for 20 years now, about 15 of those inside the SQL Server realm. I'm a blogger and a frequent speaker at all kinds of SQL Server events, and I'm really happy to be here.
Sure. So Kendra was supposed to be on. I believe that she is not feeling well. So if she does end up popping on, we'll just let her join, but otherwise she's not. So I'm going to start just asking my favorite tech question, and I'm going to have to bring this up so I can see everybody. So what I'll do is, if you would, I'll just ask each person this question because I think it's such a great question. So do you think that having a degree, like a bachelor's degree, is required to get a job, to be successful, or to work in, or to get a job in tech, or to be successful in tech? Either one. So Laurie, what do you think?
So there's two parts of that. I don't think that you need a degree in order to do a good job, to be able to do the work. On the other hand, though, a lot of employers do have that as a checkbox. So you don't need it to be successful, but it really is helpful to get up and get started before, while you're starting your career, I believe.
Yep, I agree. Okay, Catherine.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. I don't think it's necessary to be successful, and I know a lot of people who have completely different degrees than what they're currently working on. But I also know that for women and other minorities, it can be essential to just get in the door and get that first job before you build up that experience to get your next job.
Okay, Mala.
My answer to that would probably be that it depends. And for the majority of tech people I've seen, they have been remarkably successful without a degree. So I wouldn't call it a requirement for success, but it might be useful because I'm an immigrant, and for the vast majority of people like me, even to get a work visa to another country, you actually need some sort of a degree to prove that you're actually from that field and you're not trying to get in through the back door or use some kind of loophole in the system. So it's not necessary for success, but it might come in useful.
Yeah, that is a really interesting thing that I hadn't even thought about. So thank you. Okay, Kellen.
I am a journalism degree, so look how far it can get you. No, I don't believe that you need a degree to be successful, or I should say a CS degree to be successful in technology. I have advised each one of my children to have a basic degree to get out there. I think that because HR just checks the boxes and expects you to have a bachelor's degree to get in the door. I actually removed my journalism degree from my resume. It doesn't show any college because I was tired of people trying to get me in for journalism jobs, and I said I can't do that. I am a techie. The experience will get you far once you get in that door, and that's where we start getting into these future questions we'll discuss with sponsorship and mentoring.
Cool. Monica.
I don't have much more to add besides they do, but I do know my degree got me my first job. My connections in college got my foot in the door in IT and in the database realm. I would rather my resume be in the pile of those that have a degree and get looked at than those that don't have a degree and get the secondary look. That's my opinion when you first walk in a door. And for some management positions, you can only be eligible for some management positions if you actually have a degree. And I know that stopped some people that I've come across. Yeah. But to be successful, it's all about your hands-on work and your experience but you've got to get your foot in the door in order to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much. Okay, Ree, go ahead and ask your question.
Oops, hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Which question should I go with first? Who should I ask first? So, my question is, describe an example of where you've needed a mentor and how that turned out for you. So does anybody want to take this one? No. Okay, Monica.
I knew you were coming to me. So my mentor, being a mentored, has been mostly in my technical writing. So I've turned to a lot of different people on improving my writing skills and taking advantage of different editors and different people that have kind of ripped apart my writing to make it more useful and readable for others, which has been a huge learning experience. So that's probably the most mentoring I've gotten recently.
Okay, does anybody else want to add to that answer?
I have one, but everybody always finds it quite unique. My husband was my first mentor. I was working at a company that did not have a strong lead DBA. It was my first database administration job. And she was would have been classified as a workplace bully. And I was planning on leaving technology. He came in and noticed that I was able to ace the recovery manager. We're on to Oracle here. The recovery manager classes over anyone else, and ended up coming back to my manager and saying, you know, don't let Kellen go into the PM group. She really should stay technical. And because of that, my manager revisited my path and brought me back into the DBA group, and that's where I've been ever since. It worked really well for him too. Later on, he ended up with a wife out of it. So, but I don't advise it for everyone.
Cool. Okay, Kathy, we'll go back to you.
You're asking me?
I was going to let you.
I'm sorry.
Your question.
I get it. I thought you were asking me the question.
Do you want to answer it? You can.
You know, I've had some people that early in my career believed in me, you know, and that really set me on a path to where I am. So that's been like 20 years ago. And since then, I feel like I've been a mentor to a lot of people, but it's a good thing, I think,
nice.
to have someone encourage you and kind of set you down and say, hey, you know what, you could do this. You know, I think that's great. Okay, my question is, are you affected by imposter syndrome? Anybody want to answer that one? Looks like Catherine does.
Yeah. Yes, always have been, and I think I always will be, especially when you're in the little SQL bubble that we are in, like very community driven. We're at many events. Most of the people that we talk to are extremely talented people. So those are kind of the people that I compare myself to, because they're the ones that I meet and talk to. And most of the time they have completely different skills than me, and imposter syndrome hits me hard when you're like, well, I can never live up to these people that I see around there. So it's something that I work on because I do have my own skill set, but it's like it's difficult to kind of see that when you're inside your own little world as well. And I like the little saying that you only see the tip of the iceberg, right? You only see the tiny little bit at the top that people show to the world, their successes, their accomplishments, their achievements out there. You don't see the 90% that's blood, sweat, and tears. But I know that for myself. So I know about my struggles. I know about all the issues that I'm dealing with on a daily basis. So comparing my kind of full stack to someone else's top achievements is going to skew that and kind of trigger that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, fantastic.
Can I point out here, Catherine, that you're a BIML hero and a Microsoft MVP in the data platform.
And I still struggle with it.
No, I'm just giving you that boost. Now, did somebody else want to add to that? No, imposter syndrome. No.
How about you, Ree?
No, I could. Go ahead, Ree.
So, do I suffer from imposter syndrome? Of course I do. I mean, I'm not a psychopath. So no, of course I do. And to kind of piggyback on what Catherine said, you know, just as apt of an example is, you know, you're seeing someone else's Instagram feed and it's the pretty stuff that they want to show you. It's filtered and they're out there. But I think specific to women in tech, that as I look around at other women in the field and at my peers, they are the cream of the crop and they are the best of the best. And I think this is where it ties back specific to being a woman in tech, is that we're the ones who ran the gauntlet and have made it this far. So of course they're the best of the best, because all the other ones who couldn't throw themselves into that brick wall every day and just, you know, decided that they're going to take a different path. So the women that are left are the ones who made it, and we're the strongest, and we're the technically strongest and emotionally the strongest, and decided they didn't really care what the boys thought. So yeah, there you go. I remind myself of that all the time, that I've made it this far for a reason. So my question is actually going to be first specifically to Laurie, and then we'll open it up. I think she'll have a fantastic answer to this. So how has the sequel culture and industry changed in the past 5 years, and what do you predict are going to happen in the next 5 years?
What is wrong with you? Why would you think I would know that? So I think the biggest change has been around the number of different technologies that people have to look at, to learn. When I started a while ago, you know, I needed to know SQL Server. I didn't need to know SQL Server on-premise, you know, and not even using a SAN, right? So local server. So now you need to know all the cloud technologies and, you know, all the different database platforms that you might be pulling data in from. There's just the mass of knowledge that you have to have now to be efficient, I think is the biggest change. That's
okay.
my key answer.
Awesome. Okay. Does anybody else want to jump on this one?
I say a few words to that. I interviewed a few people for a book last year. Number of people, in fact, about 27 people, and I was amazed to see what came out of that. Is back in the time when I started working on SQL Server, there used to be like 3 different paths you could go. You could be a database developer, a DBA, or an architect, and later on, you know, BI got added on later, but those were the 4 different ways you could go. And now there's a billion different ways a data career can go. And it's because of the number of different technologies we have to learn and deal with, and also so many different ways that people want to look to us for guidance and for the kind of work we can do. So I think a lot has changed in 5 years.
Nice. Okay. Kathy, we'll go ahead and let you ask your next question.
Okay. So no matter what career path a person takes in technology, what one skill do you think everybody in technology should have? So let's see, who hasn't asked? Let's ask Kellen. She hasn't answered for a while. What
skill? No, just kidding. It's the ability to actually have the knack to learn new things, be willing to learn new things. Technology is always moving so fast. I don't think at any point you can say, I know it all. That's going to be the biggest weakness. Those that say, I've learned what I needed to learn, I've got this down. You're not going to go far if you don't have that capability to learn new.
Fantastic. Okay. Monica, what do you think?
Oh, so many skills. Troubleshooting skills for sure. Being able to dive in and solve mysteries, for one thing, in our field. But the other thing is so important is your people skills. You're not going to make it very far or be successful in your career or life without people skills. We deal with so many different personalities inside the IT world, especially as a woman. Dealing with personalities is the #1 skill that you must have.
Okay, cool. Mallow, what do you think?
I fully concur with what Monica said there, that people skills by far can take you much farther than I've met some seriously smart tech people who really don't have any people skills, and there's only so far you can go with that kind of a thing. And people skills are important, and how learning how to sell yourself is also really important.
Yep. How about Catherine? What do you think?
Yeah, first thing that hit me was what Kellen said. You need to learn how to learn because of things moving so fast. I also think it's very important, regardless of the kind of role that you have, that you understand what problems you're trying to solve. It's not about the technologies, it's about solving problems and kind of helping business users do their jobs, and to understand what they need and how you can help solve that regardless of technology as well, I think is a very important skill.
Cool. Laurie, what do you think?
So kind of a combination. I think communication in general. So part of it is dealing with all the different kinds of people that you have to deal with, but also being able to make sure you understand what the issues are that you're trying to solve, or the problems that you're it's early. The things that you're trying to accomplish, but also being able to communicate back to them, like, this is what I'm going to do. Does this sound right?
Cool.
Because all the time you come up with, oh, I thought you said this, and I've been solving for this, but they wanted something completely different. So just being able to communicate fully.
So cool. Thanks. Okay, Ree, you can take the next question.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. So this question, what has helped you get where you are in the industry? And what advice would you have for others who want to set off in a similar direction? And who wants to take this one? Laurie got her hand up first, but then I'll go to Monica.
I can.
You're first, Laurie.
So the thing that I always talk about when I'm speaking is to take the time to get to know other people that work in the space that you work in. There's no way that I would be here where I am now without the people that I met in the past. I met Kevin at my first past summit. Kevin happens to work for the same company I do. So meeting those contacts, talking to them, and keeping in touch with them, I think is vital for all of us probably. So aside from using your brain and being able to communicate and things like that, but getting to know people and developing that networking.
Yep. Okay, Monica?
Okay, she totally stole my answer, so obviously it's really important.
Yes.
I call them virtual coworkers and networking. I would never be where I am today without SQL family and all the people that I've met with inside our industry. We are a family like no other. Everybody lifts and pulls people up, and I would still be sitting in my lonely office at the Port of Virginia if I hadn't met Ree, who is pulling this card, doing this call, and her and I collided at the Port of Virginia. She worked with me for a while, and my whole career took off. She helped me lift myself through the SQL family, and we both push each other as well as others in the community. And it's the virtual coworkers like the lady sitting here and all those on Twitter and the SQL family that really makes a huge difference, not only in my career, but in so many careers out there.
So I'll tell you guys, my advice to Monica was, you're overworked, you're underpaid, and the market is crazy. You have to get out there. And she didn't believe me. So I said, throw your resume up on Monster, turn notifications off on your phone, and go to a meeting. And she did. And she comes back out and she was like, what happened? Because she had, she'd put a new DBA resume out there, and her phone kind of blew up. So, and there we go. Yes, Catherine.
Can I add 2 call to actions based on the things that you just said? One is for all the members of the community who are currently like in the community and who are active to go out there and try to actively get people into our community. Be open, kind of invite them along with you. Big thing lately is create U's instead of O's, meaning that you have open spaces for people to join in on the conversation. And the other call to action is to people who want to get involved is that you also kind of have to challenge yourself. I was extremely shy, introverted, and socially awkward. People don't believe me when I say this now. But when I started, I could barely talk to people. And I have people who can kind of confirm that from a few years ago. But I got someone who welcomed me and invited me along. And then I had to do more of the work myself of challenging myself to go talk to people, to get involved, and to kind of just go in and do the work. So 2 call to actions there based on kind of what you're doing right now, I think would be helpful to the community overall.
So let me highlight something that Catherine said, just in case you guys didn't catch it. She said, and I think this is so important, when you guys are all in a group, when you're at an event, when you're doing whatever, and you're standing around with your friends, to stand in a U shape instead of a circle.
Interesting.
So I want everybody on that's listening today to hear that. Stand in a U and not a circle, because it leaves an opening on the end for somebody else to join. And this is particularly important if you're that slightly socially awkward IT person that you don't have and you don't know how to step into a group. This gives everybody that opportunity. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Catherine. Thank you so much. I learned that recently, and I was like, this blew me away, that something that simple probably can make a huge difference to somebody else. So Kathy, I'll let you ask the next question.
Okay. This is another imposter syndrome question, because this is just such a crazy topic. So do you think it's always a bad thing? Do you think imposter syndrome is always bad?
No.
Looks like Matt got it. Yeah.
I don't think it's bad, because it's often confused for being the same thing as humility, and I don't think humility is one bit of a bad thing.
Okay.
I think it's always good to remember that there are people better than you. There will always be people better than you, and nobody can be a know-it-all. Imposter syndrome is not the same thing as that. It's just thinking that anything that's happening to you is really not happening to you. It's somebody else. And I personally think that it's important to have that differentiation in mind, that it doesn't mean that you're not humble if you're trying to handle imposter syndrome or trying to take ownership of whatever it is that's happening to you. That's how I look at it.
Cool. Anyone else have an opinion on that one?
Yeah, I don't think it's just bad. There are issues that you have to work with, but at the same time, it can kind of energize you as well to go out and do more. So, I mean, you can turn anything around to be positive if you choose to, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. I will turn it back over to Ree then.
Okay, so I'm going to actually go straight to Kellen for this question, and then I'll let the rest of you up, and I'm going to drag her back into this. What is the greatest challenge that you as a woman have faced in the tech industry?
Oh, wow, that's a hard one. Coming from another technical community, when I first became divorced, because when I came into the community speaking and performing a lot of technical work, deep technical work, I had become very connected with a number of individuals. And when I first got divorced, I received a lot of emails, a lot of contacts from them, from a number of gentlemen that were inappropriate. And I remember just being devastated, feeling that suddenly they didn't respect me as a peer, as a technical peer. And that was difficult. That was very difficult. And coming back and saying, challenging them and saying, this isn't how we interact with me. Would you say this to, a male peer? And bringing that up to the forefront and actually having open discussions, because no one had really discussed it openly in that community before. It wasn't easy, and there were a number of people who did not take to it kindly, but I said it's the only way we move forward. And many times those guys that are now allies in that community said they just weren't aware of it. There was no way for them to be aware of what was going on, and it's become a better community because of it.
Nice. Okay. Monica, I'll go next to you on that one. The greatest challenge that you faced as a woman in this industry?
Mine is getting my voice legitimately heard. It still happens today, and luckily I work for a really great team that understands that concept. A lot of times I will give a technical answer to a client or another person in the industry, and for me to actually get my point across, I have to turn to a man to get them to repeat my exact words sometimes. And luckily, like I said, I work with a ton of people who understand this and get this, but I have had that even recent days with clients and with others, to where you'll give the correct answer and the right information and the right guidance, and it's not taken seriously until it's repeated and reiterated by someone of the male gender.
So can I ask, is there anybody on this panel who hasn't experienced exactly what Monica just described? I didn't think so. Is there any of you who haven't experienced this in the last 6 months?
So to add into that, I have that extra challenge of my husband and I in the same technical arena. We've worked for the same company. It gets even more interesting when you add in that married component, where people will automatically not listen to what I'm saying, and then he comes in on the email and they're like, oh, well, since Tim said it. It's like, oh my God, did you really do that? It's amazing how often it happens. It's amazing that it's very unconscious most of the time. It's unintentional, but we have been taught that you take a man at his word, and no one's really kind of voiced that and made that a clear boundary with women as well.
So let me add to this. So I actually remember the first time I was conscious of this kind of thing happening. And the reason I am so clear about this, I was, in my early 20s, because the man who was standing next to me, that the person repeated the question for the man, looked back at the younger man and said, she just answered you, weren't you listening? And I was like, oh, hell yeah. I love that feeling that someone immediately validated me instead of him answering the question, turned it back and went, she just answered you. So I think, that moment made me far, far more aware of how much this happens throughout my career. So absolutely. Laurie, did you want to add something to that?
So I've been incredibly fortunate through most of my career. Not that it's been perfect or simple, but the one thing that I keep getting is people trying to run past emails or whatever. I'm going to send this to a female. Is this what I should write? Unless you're asking about pregnancy leave or something, you should send the same email to a man that you would send to a woman. You shouldn't have to couch it because they're the kinder, gentler gender. So that's a part that I've just tried to get across. Obviously, you see gender, but it shouldn't be taken into account.
So I actually encourage people to replace male pronouns with female pronouns and vice versa. And if it changes the tone of the email, if it sounds really ridiculous,
right,
then it already sounded ridiculous. You just didn't notice it.
Right, exactly.
So that's my advice to people. So Kathy, do you want to go with your question next?
Sure. And I also want to just say to the audience, I'm not sure if we'll run out of questions before the hour's up, but go ahead and put a question there just in case. We may have time to get to your questions as well. So let's ask this. I know this group of women, they are studying all the time, but how do you keep up with advances? How much time do you spend, and how do you really keep up with what's going on in technology? Looks like Laurie might have an answer.
I swear I did nothing. be completely honest, how do you, right? Because
Mhm.
you have to figure out where you're going to learn. Obviously, I have to have some kind of perspective on different things that are coming up, but I think you have to make much more of a conscious choice about the line of technologies that you're going to learn, because there's literally too much right now. So yeah, lots of reading and watching webinars.
Anyone else want to
Practice.
jump in?
I like to combine my learning time with something else that I can do. I listen to podcasts when I work out or go for a walk so that I can get something done and at the same time learn a little bit of something new. And like Laurie said, you really have to make a conscious choice on what you want to learn and how much time you have to learn it. It's not possible to keep up with everything.
Yep.
And attending SQL Saturdays and conferences and that kind of stuff certainly helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I have the issue where I feel like I'm spending so much time producing content and teaching other people's that sometimes I have a hard time actually improving my own skills. So that's my problem. But Catherine, looked like you had an answer.
Yeah, it's a little on the side because I completely agree that you need to prioritize it. Something that I did, and I know I'm extremely fortunate and privileged to have found the employer that I'm currently working for. I actually, during negotiations, when I interviewed for this job, instead of just focusing on the salary, I focused on how important it is to me to be able to go to events and to be able to keep up to speed with technology. So I have it written in my contract that I get to go to 2 international conferences per year, which is worth way more than a higher salary to me personally. And I also have between, up to 1 day a week where I can actually spend time learning new things. In return, I have to share it with my coworkers. So I have 1 day a week where I can sit, I can learn, I can explore, do labs or just try out new things. And then I go back and I teach it to my coworkers. And that was something that I negotiated when I interviewed for that job. So there are kind of ways that you can do that. I know not everyone is going to agree with that, in which case you kind of need to prioritize it for yourself. If you don't have that opportunity, what I recommend to people is do like 30 minutes a day, like during lunchtime or after work or something like that. If you set aside 30 minutes per day to read up on blogs or watch a video, a webinar, something like that, you can kind of keep up with most things. And then absolutely go to free events like SQL Saturdays.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else?
I also added that into my contract when I started at Microsoft, that I wanted to be able to continue speaking as well as contributing and being part of those kind of events. I also gave them an option that said, you want to introduce more into the Oracle community, I'd like to still be involved with that as well. I think it's very smart what Catherine said. To be part of this is the way that you learn, and depending on how you learn too. Some of us can learn just by reading. Some of us can learn by watching a video. Some of us need to do. That I have access to be able to do everything that I do is extremely important to me, actually retaining that knowledge.
Very cool. Thank you. Okay, Ree, over to you.
Nice. Okay, so I'm actually going to ask every one of you to answer this question. I think it's a fun one. If you could go back in time and speak to yourself before you entered IT, what would you say to yourself? Catherine, you're on my far left, so I go to you first.
Oh my God. Well, I didn't enter IT that long ago. But I would say kind of something that took me a long time to learn, and that is just challenging myself to step out of my comfort zone and do that earlier, because once I started doing that, things changed for me. I may have a better answer after everyone else,
Okay.
but they're smart thoughts.
Okay.
Let me think about it.
Okay, I'm going to go to Monica next.
Oh, I knew you were coming to me. What would I tell myself when I was younger for this? Mostly, you've got this. You're going to hit some challenges, but you've got it. Be sure to lift others along the way, because you're going to have a lot of things to pay forward to. And just because it's a male-dominated field doesn't mean there's not a place for you. Keep at it.
Nice. Okay. Mala.
I'd say liking your job and liking your profession are not quite the same thing. So I've given a lot to jobs in the past, like worked too hard or done things way above what was expected and felt like burned out and used up in the process, and until I got into community and learned how to channel my passion for what I do, into blogging, speaking, and giving to community. And that's one way you can fuel what you really like instead of giving too much to jobs. So like your job and like your profession don't have to be the same thing.
Nice. Okay. Laurie.
So mine would have been to reach out to existing communities sooner. For all of my DBA life, for most of my DBA life, I was the sole DBA. So without having access to like community, some problems are really hard when you're starting out. Once I got onto Twitter and started talking with other people in the data profession, there were answers all around the place. So yeah, more just kind of reaching out to see what resources are available to you earlier.
Nice. Good. Kellen.
Your job is only as good as your boss. A good boss. I do believe that very strongly. So I interview my bosses as much as they interview me. And to learn to trust myself more when I was younger, because I think that kind of channels something that Helen Mirren said, that you need to learn to tell people to F off more often. So yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you, Catherine.
Yeah, I also think.
Hold on. Oh no, I got Monica. You're good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
She can go again if she wants to.
No.
No, I think what the others said as well is don't burn yourself out for your work. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. Take breaks from what you do. Like, even if you want to spend time learning, and I know all of us, we spend a lot of our free time at events, helping others, doing all of that, but make sure you do something else as well. I hit a wall very early in my career, and I wish I hadn't done that, but at the same time, it was a learning experience. I don't want anyone else to do that. So take care of yourself as well. It's not worth killing yourself for a job.
Nice. Awesome. So Kathy, do you wanna jump in on that one? Answer that question?
Like when I was first getting into tech, I think the only thing I could say to myself is you have no idea the fun you're going to have. I think I knew it was going to be fun, but I had no idea what I would actually accomplish. Absolutely no idea that I'd be talking to you wonderful women today, in the position that I'm in. I think for me, I need to go back to that 17-year-old and give better advice then, and tell that person, look at math, look at engineering, look at some of those. Don't go to healthcare. Look at some things that you might really like better. And I think I would have been happier sooner. Let's put it that way. How about you, Ree?
I think I probably the same advice a lot of you gave. I totally agree with Kellen interviewing her boss, and I've probably carried that over into now that I am a boss. I try really hard to be the kind of boss that I'm going to be, but I think Monica's hit the closest to home with, it's going to be okay. You're going to be respected, and you're going to face some challenges, and believe it or not, you're going to come out on the other side a little bit stronger, and your daughter's going to turn out okay too. I probably would go back in time and tell myself that I was going to turn out to be an okay mom, frankly. So, because that's the thing you worry about the most, is turning out a decent human being. So Laurie, she was like, maybe worry about that. Maybe you don't. Okay, Kathy, did you have another question?
Yeah, the only one I have left on my list is not a great question because we kind of answered it before. I just had, whether you think certifications are valuable, and we kind of touched on that a little bit in education. So I'll just throw it out there because that's my last question in my list.
I'll take it.
All right.
So I recently upped my certification. I was certified in 2005 when I first started my career, took that big long gap of not getting certified, and then I just re-upped my certifications. And to me, I guess it depends what field you're in. So as a consultant, staying up on the latest and greatest and being certified and everything, obviously it has its benefits. When clients come in and say, hey, you have these MVPs, you have these certifications, you have this and that, it really helps give you some street cred on paper. But other than that, having it just for your own self, I think is the benefit. I don't know that having the paperwork says you can do your job any better than anybody else. I think it means you can take a test and you've learned the latest lingo, which has its benefits, but not the necessity.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well. Right now, going back into consulting kind of kickstarted my certification path again. I did the same thing. I took a lot of certifications last year, and I'm continuing that this year. As a consultant, I feel like it's very important because clients very often just look at that on the paper like it's a check mark. Same thing with having a bachelor's degree, it's a check mark. I think it's also important for people who go and take those certifications that you use it for all it's worth as a learning experience for yourself and not just study to pass the exam, but use it to actually learn things because it's so easy to see if you know it or not. I also think the timing of when you take the certifications is extremely important. I took certifications right after I finished my bachelor's degree, and at that point it was just studying to learn it, and then it was out of my head because I didn't have any real experience I could hook into at that point. Doing it again last year was a completely different experience for me because I had that experience. I had project experience. I had client experience. I was able to learn things in a completely different way. So I would say if you're new, focus on project experience more than certifications, and then you can take certifications after a couple of years because it's so much easier to learn after a while.
So let me add to this as a hiring manager. So specifically for people who are trying to break into the field, when I look at a resume, if all you have are certifications, I'm not even going to pre-screen you. I'm really, really not. So it's as much about balance as it is anything else. So don't waste too much time going and getting a bunch of certifications. I'd really rather you have 1 year of experience than 5 certifications. Because like Monica said, getting a certification proves you can take a test. It doesn't prove to me that you can solve that problem in the real world that you faced on the test. So it's a balance of certifications and work history. So did somebody have more they wanted to add to that one? No?
Can I give a recommendation?
Not much.
Wait, what?
Can I give a recommendation to everyone who's listening? If you're in the Microsoft world, which I expect most people are, Microsoft Learn, the new learning paths that they have, I started studying using that recently, and it's great. It's a combination of text and articles, videos, hands-on labs, and a few questions, and I think that is by far one of the best ways I've studied for a long time. So check out Microsoft Learn. It's a bit of a little plug there.
Nice, awesome. Okay, I'll throw this one out there, and then you guys can answer it at will. My money is that Kellen will have the best answer to this question. So what's the question that you are most tired of hearing on this subject? And what would you say so that you never have to answer that question again? And on the subject of women in tech.
Subject of women in tech.
Yes. So if you, what question are you really tired of hearing? And if you could answer it now, that would stop you from ever having to answer the question again. What would your answer be?
How do we get more women in tech?
Okay, so What is your answer to that question? If you could give us an answer now that totally solved the problem and nobody asked you again.
So most of the time they're focused on how do we get them now, women that are in the workforce now, into technology. And the challenge is that this goes way back. As most of us know, many times that we're dealing with bias, that we're dealing with culture and upbringing. And for me, myself, I deal with this, that my children, you know, we've got 5 kids that are all adults, and they had less technical education than I did. I graduated in 83, long time ago. That bothers me as much as technology is in the forefront of everything that we do every day. 41 states right now have no requirement for technical education as part of their criteria to graduate. That bothers me. That really does. That we are so busy teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is extremely essential. We must have that. That we don't include technology in that says a lot about our future. That we have kids that are going in and getting degrees and saying, and I work in education in Microsoft, so I know this, 53% of them by their second year still aren't set on a degree, on what they're going to major in. And yet we are pushing them towards, well, I'm going to get a degree as a lit major, a lit major. I'm going to get a degree in history. They might as well get a degree in calligraphy, and they're not going to get any farther ahead. If we look at the statistics, from, labor and, gosh, I can't even talk today. Go to the Bureau of State Labor and Statistics and start looking at the percentage of jobs and the salaries that are there. We need to kind of help our future in saying these are the percentage of jobs. We need to introduce technology from the get-go, from the time the kids are 5 years old, because other countries are doing it. As much as people sometimes come to me and say, well, we're shipping all these jobs overseas. No, we have 20,000 CS graduates that are coming out of the colleges every year in the US, and we have 1.2 million tech jobs that are going to be open by 2020. We don't have the people to fill them. They have to go overseas. So if you want to change women in tech, start out younger. Start when they're 5. Start when they're 6. By the time they're 8, you're too late.
So let me add to that, Kellen. It's not just about getting women into tech. It's about keeping women in tech. Women leave tech at 4 times the rate that men do. Women leave tech at 4 times the rate that men do. So even with the existing workforce, don't expect them to be around.
And I think that's why that question exhausts me, because it is such a broad subject and they want a silver bullet, and there is no silver bullet. So agreed.
Right. So what's the question you are most tired of hearing, and how would you like to answer it so that you never have to answer it again? Does anybody else want to tackle that one? Because I'll go to Monica if nobody else does. Okay.
Okay, so this is a touchy one, and this is one that you can be really passionate about. I want to stop hearing the question from men of how can I help? Because although it's a really great question, I would rather there not be a problem at all that needs to be solved. I'd like to actually see everything become equal, and us not to have to raise awareness about this. So that's plain and simple. Problem solved, equal. That's it.
Okay. Does anybody else want to tackle this one?
I'm not sure it's a question I've received that often and that I never want again, but what I want to hear more is, would you like to participate in this tech panel, and not would you like to participate in this women in tech panel? So I like both, but I want more women doing tech and more focus on that than just talking about women in tech, because I think we all need role models who are up there talking about technology, about what we're doing, the jobs we're doing, and just get more people on stage talking about that as well.
Nice, nice. Laurie, do you have anything you want to put in here?
No, kind of the same. I guess that my hope is, like I said before, that it's not a gender question. How do we get more people in tech, regardless of your gender? But maybe that's because I have 2 boys. I don't know. And tech is hard, but neither one of my children, they're both in college, neither one of them went into CS. They also watched me on call all of their lives, so that's probably why. But yeah, I'd just like to see more tech focus, like Kellen said, when you're growing up, when you're going to school.
Nice. Okay, Mala, do you have anything that you want to add to this question?
I think what Catherine said resonated with me the best. I think I'd like to be asked if I want to be part of a panel and not just a part of a women's panel, maybe sometime in the future, hopefully.
So to address that, I think it's up to us, and I don't just mean everybody on this call, but the people listening, the people that are in the SQL community, to hold conferences accountable when they have a non-diverse panel. Now, unless it's like today, it's women talking tech, I think it would be very weird to have a man on a panel about women talking tech. But Kathy and I did work hard on these questions to make sure that we came up with not just questions about being a woman in tech, but technical questions. Where do you see the industry going? What advice would you give to yourself? You know, what kind of tech should you work on? And balance that with the elephant in the room, which is that we're all female. But everybody that's out there, everybody that's listening, when you see a conference schedule and they have what people jokingly or not jokingly call a manel, call them on it. And while I don't think any of us want to be added to a panel because they needed a woman, when you're given that opportunity, though, it's my advice to take it, because there's someone sitting in the audience, sees you up there and says, I can do that. If she can do that, I can do that. And they see that it's not quite as male dominated as their office is at home, you know, when they go back to wherever it is they are. So it's a balancing act. I think we all walk this tightrope of wanting to just be in tech, but not being able to escape the fact that we are women in tech. I wish we could, but it's not totally up to me. So Kathy, did you have anything else that you wanted
to add? I think we're like 30 seconds away from running out of time. So I think really what I would like to add is I just thank our panel today for being leaders in our community, for putting that extra effort in to be speakers, to be writers, to be role models for, you know, other men and women, boys and girls that are coming up in tech. So I really appreciate all of you, and also you, Ree, and thanks you guys for being here, and thanks also for the people that attended as well. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Yes.
Bye.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.